Hello and welcome everyone to Cracking the Hero Husband Code, session number 1, Conflict Without Casualties. I'm thrilled to have you here as we kick off this transformative series. In today's session, we're diving into one of the most important and often the most challenging aspects of any marriage, conflict. So if you've ever asked yourself, how do I handle conflict without making things worse? You're in the right place. Get ready to explore practical tools, powerful mindsets, and a new approach to connection that doesn't come at the cost of peace. Over to you, Leslie.
Hi, and welcome to part 1 of Breaking the Hero Husband Code, Conflict Without Casualties with Coach Master. My name is Lesli Doares, and I'm a marriage and family therapist and marriage coach, and I'm truly honored to present a program today that is actually about managing disagreements in your marriage without them turning into conflicts or arguments. And I want to thank you for joining me, because if you embrace and implement what I'm going to be sharing with you today, you can seriously reduce the tension in your marriage and, for all intents and purposes, stop the fights and arguments once and for all. Now, I know that's a big promise, but I've seen it work. And what I want to say is disagreements in a marriage are a given. Any two people, I don't care how much they love each other, are eventually going to disagree about something. That's not a problem. And in fact, John Gottman, marriage guru, says that 67% of all disagreements in a marriage can and do go unresolved. The challenge is, what do you do with those other 30%, 33%? And this is where disagreements turn into arguments and fights. And I'm sure you've probably heard the statement that all couples fight, even happy couples fight. It isn't whether you fight, it's how you fight. Now, first off, that's not true, because some couples don't fight. One or the other person may be conflict avoidant, and that just means all the tension and disagreement and difficulty is under the surface. So that's not helpful. And I'm going to say that a lot of couples don't fight, and it's not because they're avoiding the issue. It's because they've learned how to productively deal with their disagreements. And I don't have an issue with what the recommendations are for fighting fair. I think all of those suggestions are perfectly legitimate and very helpful. The problem is that they are coming in under the umbrella of giving you permission to fight. And I've been doing this for 20 years, and I have never figured out how to put a positive spin on that word. Okay, it's just a really harsh word. And so once we give ourselves permission to fight, then we're kind of taking off the guardrails, and this allows us to be overcome by our emotional reactivity. And this is what happens when you feel like you've been attacked or you're triggered in some way. Your emotions just flood your system, and being able to think clearly and calmly goes right out the window. And that is really what's happening when you're having what you think is a conversation, and then suddenly it veers off and you end up in a ditch because you've been fighting with your partner. And when we fight, when we're given permission to fight, if you are a fighter like I am, you can end up saying very harsh things that your partner, no matter how much you apologize, can never unhear them. So the goal is to not say them in the first place. And the challenge is that every one of us is going to react when we feel attacked. Now, some of us are fighters and some are fleers. The people who avoid contact are the fleers. And if you are a fighter, then this is where a lot of the damage is being done. In fact, I just got an email from somebody who said his biggest challenge is managing his anger when he feels attacked and he gets defensive. And the truth of the matter is, this is a very natural thing. Our brains are wired to keep us alive. And that's the fight or flight mechanism that goes on. When our bodies perceive threat, it is going to go into one of those modes, fight or flight. And the challenge becomes, how do we stop that? Because you cannot actually stop that initial reaction. It is part and parcel of keeping us alive. And the problem is that our bodies do not know the difference between an accusation that, we left a dish in the sink just to be nasty versus being chased by a lion. Our bodies don't know the difference. And if our cognitive brain is offline, we aren't going to be acting appropriately. So what do we do? What are some ways that once we are in that reactive mode, that we don't do damage? So there are a couple of things that I talk to my clients about. One is developing an emotional reactivity scale. I use a scale from 1 to 10, with 1 being life could not possibly be any better, to 10, somebody is going out the second story window and I don't know who it is. So my rule of thumb is, you do not start having a conversation, especially about an important issue, if you are higher than a 3 on your scale. Now, your scale and your partner's scale are going to be different, but a 3 is a 3 is a 3, right? You may get to a 3 faster than your partner, but that's the purpose of the scale, right? And here's the thing. It's okay if you are not in the right frame of mind and your partner wants to talk about a particular issue, to say exactly that. Hey, I'm really not in a good space right now. I know this is important and I want to have a conversation with you when I'm prepared to have it in a good way. Can we meet at 10 a.m. on Saturday? Great, right? And the same thing applies while you're having the conversation. You can fluctuate on your scale between a 3 and a 6, but if you start to feel like you're getting hotter, 6, 7, 8, that's when you need to pause the conversation. You need to take a break. And again, when you request the break, you can say, hey, I'm heading towards a 7. I really want to be able to have this conversation calmly. Can we take a break? Can we come back in 15 minutes? Can we come back to it tomorrow? Because this is how you keep the damage from happening. If you ask for a break, you need to provide a time where you will come back and have the conversation with you. Because if you don't, your partner isn't going to let you go, and the chance of you ending up in a fight goes much higher. And the other thing I need for you guys to know is that you cannot have a fight or argument by yourself. You can be upset and angry by yourself, but to actually have a fight or an argument, you have to be a willing participant. Now, for a long time, this was theoretical to me when I would talk about my clients, until the one day my husband actually exhibited it for me, because we were having one of our rare fights and I was hurt. And he just said, you know what? I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm not participating in this. And he literally just stopped. And I tried to engage him a couple of times, but he was adamant that he was not going to continue the argument. And then all the hot air went out of my balloon. So I know that it works, right? And it really is about how do I manage and monitor my own emotional turmoil. And that is why the scale works. And the other thing that helps is because, like I said, our cognitive brain is offline. So anything that will give us the space to bring it back online is what you want to do. I'm sure you've heard the expression about when you're upset, count to 10. It's the counting to 10 that gives your cognitive brain the chance to re-engage. So if you're having a conversation with your partner and they say something that does not land well, pause, take a deep breath, ask a clarifying question, reflect back to them what you think you've heard. Don't say, you said blah, 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 but I heard that when I leave the dish in the sink, it's really upsetting. Is that right? That does two things. One, it gives you the chance to grab your emotional reaction and not become defensive. And two, it actually gives you the opportunity to clarify what your partner is upset about, because we don't hear necessarily what the other person says. And if we are emotionally triggered, it's even harder to hear that. So those are some suggestions that should bring the temperature and the tension down. So if you have any questions or want any other on this or any other relationship issue, you can connect with me through my website, which is www.theherohusbandproject.com. And I want to thank you for being here. And I want you to take care. And I will see you in the next session.
Thank you, Leslie, for today's session. And to everyone who joined, that wraps up session number 1 of Cracking the Hero Husband Code. Make sure to join us for session number 2, where we'll take the next step in decoding what it truly means to thrive in your role as a partner. Until then, stay grounded, stay open, and keep showing up for the relationship you want to build.